I always thought I was the least interesting person at my own table, until my wife started texting me from across the city while sitting 3 feet away from another man. My name is Evan Brooks, and I run a boutique software firm in Midtown Manhattan. At 42, I've learned that being underestimated is the greatest weapon a man can possess. My wife Monica never figured that out. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. It was a Tuesday evening in October when everything unraveled. Monica had been acting strange for weeks. Late nights, secretive phone calls, sudden interest in designer dresses that cost more than my monthly coffee budget. She'd developed this habit of checking her reflection in every surface, like she was preparing for an audition I wasn't invited to watch. "I'm having dinner with a potential client tonight," she announced that morning, not looking up from her phone. "Big account. Could change everything for my sales numbers." Monica worked as a sales director for a high-end marketing firm. At 37, she was attractive in that polished, Manhattan professional way, the kind of woman who could sell ice to penguins and make them thank her for the privilege. "Which restaurant?" I asked, stirring my coffee. "Marcello's, that new steakhouse on East 47th. She finally looked up, her green eyes bright with something I couldn't identify. "Don't call me tonight, okay? I need to focus on closing this deal." I nodded, but something felt off. Monica had never asked me not to call before. In 15 years of marriage, she'd always been the one checking in, making sure I remembered to eat lunch or pick up dry cleaning. That evening, around 8 o'clock, my phone buzzed with a text from her. "Having dinner with a client, don't call." I stared at the message, feeling that familiar twist in my gut that told me something was wrong. On impulse, I grabbed my jacket and headed for Marcello's. If Monica was really having a business dinner, I could surprise her, maybe meet this important client myself. The restaurant was dimly lit, all exposed brick and flickering candles. I asked for a table and was seated in the back corner, with a perfect view of the dining room. That's when I saw them. Monica sat at a corner booth, leaning across the table toward a man I'd never seen before. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with perfectly styled dark hair, and the kind of expensive suit that screamed, "Look at my bank account." But it was his haircut that caught my attention, one of those trendy undercut styles that looked like he'd stuck his finger in an electrical socket. They weren't discussing quarterly reports. Monica's hand rested on his across the table, her fingers tracing circles on his knuckles. She threw her head back, laughing at something he said, the way she used to laugh at my jokes during our first year of dating. My phone was in my hand before I'd consciously decided to use it. I typed quickly, "Tell him that haircut makes him look ridiculous." I watched Monica's phone light up on the table. She glanced down, and I saw the exact moment she read my message. Her face went pale, her eyes widening in panic. She immediately started scanning the restaurant, her head turning left and right like a security camera searching for threats. The man, I'd later learn his name was Alec Petrov, noticed her sudden change in demeanor. "Everything okay, babe?" Babe. My wife of 15 years was babe to this walking hair disaster. Monica continued her frantic visual sweep of the room while I sat perfectly still, partially hidden behind a wine menu. Her panic was beautiful to watch, pure, undiluted terror at being caught in the act. I pulled out my phone again and opened the camera app. Click, click, click. Timestamps. 8:47 p.m., 8:48 p.m., 8:49 p.m. Monica Brooks having an intimate dinner with an unknown man while telling her husband she was in a business meeting. After capturing enough evidence to sink a battleship, I quietly paid my bill and stepped outside into the cool October air. My hands were surprisingly steady as I scrolled through my contacts and found Randall K., my attorney. "Randall, it's Evan Brooks. I need to see you first thing tomorrow morning. Bring divorce papers." The next morning, I sat in Randall's office on the 32nd floor of a glass tower, watching the city wake up below us. Randall K. was the kind of lawyer who charged by the minute and was worth every penny, methodical, ruthless, and loyal to his clients above all else. "These photos are quite damning," he said, studying the images on my phone. "Timestamp shows 8:47 p.m., and you have her text message saying she was in a business meeting. This establishes a clear pattern of deception." "There's more," I said, pulling out Monica's iPad. "We share an iCloud account. I've been monitoring her messages." Randall raised an eyebrow. "That's legally permissible since it's a shared account, but be careful. We want to stay on the right side of the law." I showed him the text threads I'd discovered over the past week. Messages to someone named A with heart emojis, dinner reservations at expensive restaurants, half-deleted texts that read like love letters written by a teenager. "Who is he?" Randall asked. "Alec Petrov. Runs a PR firm, drives a Porsche, has an Instagram account full of gym selfies and motivational quotes about success." "Sounds delightful," Randall said dryly. "What's your timeline?" "I want to move fast, secure my business assets, separate our finances, and serve her papers before she realizes what's happening." "Smart. The element of surprise is crucial in these situations. She'll try to control the narrative once she knows you're aware of the affair." I spent the morning at my office, quietly moving money and updating passwords. My business partner, Jake Morrison, noticed my unusual focus on administrative tasks. "Everything okay, boss? You're not usually this interested in accounting." "Just getting organized," I said, transferring another chunk of money to a separate account. "You know how it is." By noon, I'd secured everything that mattered. My business was protected, my personal finances were separated, and Randall had prepared the initial paperwork for legal separation. Monica came home that evening with a guilty smile and a new dress. "How was your client dinner?" I asked, not looking up from my laptop. "Oh, boring business stuff, but I think we might close the deal." She moved to the kitchen, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. "How was your evening?" "Quiet. Watched some TV, answered emails. Nothing exciting." She nodded, clearly relieved that I wasn't asking more questions. If she'd been paying attention, she might have noticed that I was calmer than usual, more focused. But Monica had never been particularly observant when it came to my moods. Over the next few days, I watched her carefully. She was texting constantly, always angling her phone away from me. She started working late more often, claiming big projects and important clients. Her friend Sophie, a bottle-blonde gossip who treated marriage like a competitive sport, would call and they'd speak in hushed tones about situations and complications. I'd known Sophie for 10 years and had always found her insufferable. She was the kind of woman who treated other people's relationships like entertainment, always stirring up drama and offering unsolicited advice about men and money. "You should see Monica's new client," I heard Sophie say during one of their phone calls. "Makes you want to cheat on your diet and your husband." They both laughed, like this was the funniest thing in the world. Thursday evening, Monica announced another client dinner. "Same place?" I asked innocently. "Different restaurant this time, somewhere downtown. I'll be late, so don't wait up." I nodded and wished her luck, then waited exactly 30 minutes before calling Randall. "It's time," I told him. Friday morning at 10:15 a.m., Monica was served with formal separation papers at her office. I wasn't there to see it happen, but Sophie called me within an hour, her voice shrill with outrage. "What the hell do you think you're doing, Evan? Monica is devastated." "I'm protecting myself, Sophie. Something you'd understand if you'd ever been in a committed relationship. This is insane. She made one little mistake." "One little mistake?" I laughed, surprising myself with how bitter it sounded. "Is that what we're calling it?" "You're being ridiculous. Men cheat all the time, and their wives don't destroy their lives over it." "Monica isn't a man, Sophie, and I'm not other wives." She hung up on me, which I considered a victory. Monica came home that evening like a hurricane making landfall. She burst through the front door, her face red with anger and tears. How could you do this to me? She screamed, waving the legal papers in the air. In front of my entire office. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? I looked up from my dinner, leftover Chinese food eaten straight from the container, and studied her face. Not as humiliating as finding out your wife has been cheating on you. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think, Monica. I saw you with him. I have photos, text messages, and a timeline that would make a prosecutor weep with joy. Her face went white. You were spying on me? I was protecting myself. There's a difference. She collapsed onto the couch, her designer dress wrinkled and her perfect makeup smeared. It just happened, Evan. I didn't plan for this. What just happened? The lies? The secret dinners? The new wardrobe? Which part was accidental? I was lonely, she said, her voice small. You're always working, always focused on your business. When was the last time you took me somewhere nice? When was the last time you asked me to? She didn't have an answer for that. His name is Alec Petrov, I continued. 39 years old, runs a PR firm that specializes in social media influence, drives a 2022 Porsche Cayenne, leases a condo in Soho, and has been married twice before. Did you know about the previous wives, Monica? Her silence was answer enough. He's not going to leave his current situation for you, I said gently. Men like Alec don't leave, they collect. You don't know him? I know exactly who he is. I've spent the last week learning everything about him. Want to hear about his bankruptcy 3 years ago? Or maybe you'd prefer to know about the harassment complaint filed by his last assistant? Monica stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You're scaring me, Evan. Good. You should be scared. Because for the first time in our marriage, I'm not going to be the understanding husband who forgives and forgets. She tried to move closer to me, but I held up a hand to stop her. I want you out of the house by Sunday, I said. Take whatever you need, but the lease is in my name, and I'm not leaving. Where am I supposed to go? I suggest you ask Alec. I'm sure he has ideas. By Monday morning, the story had spread through Monica's social circle like wildfire. Sophie, despite her initial support for Monica, had apparently decided that being associated with a cheating wife was bad for her own reputation. She started distancing herself, canceling lunch plans, and avoiding Monica's calls. I learned this from Jake, whose wife Sarah ran in the same social circles as Monica's friends. Sarah says the wives are all freaking out, Jake told me over coffee. They're worried their husbands will think they're okay with cheating if they stay friends with Monica. Guilt by association? Something like that. Plus, apparently Sophie has been telling everyone that she tried to warn Monica this would happen. I wasn't surprised. Sophie was the kind of person who would throw her own mother under a bus if it meant avoiding social embarrassment. Monica had moved in with her sister temporarily, but even that arrangement was causing problems. Her sister Karen was a self-righteous suburban mom who treated Monica's situation like a personal attack on the institution of marriage. Karen keeps lecturing me about moral responsibility, Monica complained during one of our phone conversations about dividing assets. Like I'm some kind of criminal. You're not a criminal, I agreed. You're just someone who broke a promise and got caught. Why are you being so calm about this? Shouldn't you be angrier? I was angry. Now I'm just tired. That was partially true. I was tired, but I was also methodically planning the next phase of my revenge. Because while Monica was dealing with the social fallout of her choices, Alec Petrov was still driving around Manhattan in his Porsche, probably looking for his next conquest. That couldn't stand. I hired a private investigator named Marcus Webb, a former NYPD detective who specialized in corporate background checks. Within a week, he'd compiled a comprehensive report on Alec's business practices, personal relationships, and financial situation. The report made for fascinating reading. Alec's PR firm was built on smoke and mirrors, fake client testimonials, inflated success stories, and partnerships with companies that existed only on paper. He owed money to at least 6 different creditors, and had been sued for breach of contract 4 times in the past 2 years. More interesting were his personal relationships. Alec had a pattern of targeting married women in professional settings, using his charm and expensive lifestyle to lure them into affairs, then discarding them when the situation became complicated. Monica wasn't his first victim, and she wouldn't be his last, but she would be his most expensive mistake. I started small. Anonymous tips to his creditors about his new Porsche and expensive lifestyle. Casual mentions to mutual professional contacts about his questionable business practices. Nothing illegal, nothing that could be traced back to me, but enough to start cracks in his carefully constructed facade. The real opportunity came when I discovered that Alec's biggest client was a conservative family values company that prided itself on moral leadership. They paid him a 6-figure annual retainer to manage their public image and social media presence. It would be a shame if they found out their PR representative was seducing married women and posting about it on his personal Instagram account. 3 weeks after Monica moved out, I got a call from her sister Sophie. She was crying, actual tears, which instantly alarmed me. Sophie never cried for real. "Evan, I need to tell you something about Monica and that man." "I'm listening." "It's worse than you think. She told everyone it was just a few dinners, but she's been seeing him for months, since last spring." Spring. That meant Monica had been cheating for over 6 months, smiling at me every morning while building a future with someone else. "There's more," Sophie said. "She used your joint credit card to buy him gifts, watches, dinners, over $8,000 last month." I thanked her, hung up, and immediately called my credit card company to dispute the charges. They flagged the purchases and launched an investigation. While I was still on the phone, Monica called. "Evan, there's been a misunderstanding with some credit card charges." "No misunderstanding," I said calmly. "I reported them as fraudulent. You can't do that. They were legitimate expenses." "Legitimate for your affair?" Silence. Then, "I'll pay you back." "With what income? You were fired, remember?" Her job had let her go right after the separation papers were served. Officially, budget cuts, but the whispers said otherwise. "Alec said he might have something for me at his firm," she muttered. I almost felt pity. Almost. "Monica, his firm is collapsing. He owes half the city money. His biggest client fired him, and his Porsche got repossessed on Tuesday." A sharp inhale. Alec built his identity around that car. "How do you know?" "Because I actually research things before making life-changing decisions." She hung up. I knew she'd call back to reclaim the last word, but instead, an hour later, Alec called. "We need to meet," he said flatly. "This situation is out of control." "Agreed," I said. "Tomorrow, noon, Central Park, bench by the Alice in Wonderland statue." "Why there?" "It's public, well lit, full of witnesses." The next day, Alec looked like someone had kicked him down a flight of stairs. His hair was messy, suit wrinkled, eyes hollow. "You've destroyed my life," he said. "I exposed your life. There's a difference. My clients canceled everything. I'm going bankrupt." "That's what happens when a business is built on fake testimonials." He stared at me desperately. "What do you want? Money?" "Alec, you don't have money. Your accounts are frozen, your credit's wrecked, and your reputation is dust. What are you paying me with?" "Hope." He swallowed hard. "Then what will make you leave me alone?" "I want you gone from Monica's life. No texts, no calls, no pretending to bump into her. As far as she's concerned, you never existed." "Fine," he muttered. "I was getting tired of her anyway." So that was the man Monica had thrown away 15 years for, someone bored with her already. "One more thing," I said, taking out my phone. "Call her. Right now, end it. Make it clear she was just entertainment." "That's cruel." "Not as cruel as what she did to me." He hesitated, then dialed. Monica answered immediately. "Baby, thank God. Evan has been telling people." "It's over, Monica," Alec said. "This was a mistake. I'm done." Her voice rose, shaking. "What?" We had plans. I never promised you anything. You're a married woman having a crisis. I was bored. Silence. Then a small, broken, "But you said you loved me." I say lots of things. He hung up and shoved the phone back at me. Happy? Very. Because when you're living in a tiny apartment in Queens, you'll remember this day and know you did it to yourself. I walked away. My phone buzzed. "Please come home. We need to talk." I replied, "There's nothing left to talk about. Tell your next client to get a better haircut." Then I blocked her and kept walking toward the life she never imagined I'd build without her.